Alrighty, you guys. PFL is back at it again. And long gone are the days of competitive season style fights. Long gone are the confusing days of a point system that so many complained about. And it's been replaced by a simpler, regular tournament style format. And we got some pretty decent matchups here. I'm actually excited about this tournament. I don't know about you guys, but there's gonna be some bangers here. All right, and for our first matchups, we start off with the welterweights and featherweights. April 3rd, Florida. Main card prediction from bottom. Alrighty, first fight of our main card. We start off with the featherweights. And we have a fight between Canadian Jeremy Kennedy versus Movlid Khaybulaev. Let's start off with Jeremy Kennedy. Canadian, like I mentioned, and the reason why I emphasize Canadian is because he has a very similar style to George St. Pierre. I know people are gonna think I'm crazy for that. More of a Rory McDonald style, where they're very meticulous, they're very thoughtful about their strikes. They tend to use their jab a lot, and only really throw their cross when needed. Sharp, clean 1-2s down the pipe, left counter hook attacks. He's not a bad fighter. It's just when you pit him in against heavy hitters, like his last two fights, which are both losses. One to Patricky Pitbull, where he actually got stopped. The other one against Braga. It just seems that it's not enough. With that said, they're putting him against Khaybulaev. Let's talk about Khaybulaev, or Khaybulaev. Man, what a fun fighter this guy is. Like I mentioned, explosive, dangerous. The author of vicious highlight reels already. Only thing that puzzles me is he's been inactive for about 1.5 years now. His last major appearance was in the PFL tournament of 2023. I don't know if any ring rust will come into play here against Kennedy. Again, a guy who's very meticulous with his striking. But I still have a feeling this guy's gonna pull it off. Powerful on the inside with sharp hooks, flying knees, you name it. This guy just brings it, and I just think it's gonna be too much for Kennedy. I definitely see Khaybulaev knocking out Kennedy in the first or second round. Second fight of our main event, we go to the welterweight division, and we have a fight between Magomed Umalatov versus Logan Storley. The best way I can describe Umalatov is Islam Makhachev. He definitely has an Islam Makhachev approach to his fighting style. Limited striking, but it's not bad. It's powerful enough to keep you on your toes. And again, we all know about that Dagestani wrestling, right? A guy just strikes to get in, takes you down, holds you down, and works you. And this style of fight is just so difficult for so many to overcome, because these Dagestanis come with an incredible gas tank. So these guys can do it for 3, 4, 5 rounds, you name it. What are the chances that you can keep up with their wrestling, that you can keep up with their strength? Eventually you will fatigue, and when you go down, fatigue makes cowards of us all. Eventually they sink in some sort of submission and it's over. And lucky for him, he's going up against an American wrestler in Logan Storley, whose game plan always is blast that double, work position, pound you out a little bit, and hopefully get a submission. Something I've noticed about Logan Storley is that most of his takedowns come without a setup. It's not like if he jabs you and crosses you and has you switching angles and whatnot, or worrying too much about the stand-up and then boom, the takedown comes. No, like I mentioned, this guy just blasts his doubles and he gets. Not just that, but Storley is different in the sense that when he takes you down, he doesn't mind sitting in your guard. Not necessarily guard, I would say more of a half guard. He'll sit in your half guard, do these little hammer fist, and usually maintains a specific position, which he loves, the head and arm choke position. He could do this all day long. But we're talking about Umalatov here. He's not going to be able to do a damn thing against Umalatov. His strengths are exactly Umalatov's strengths. Difference being, Umalatov is better. He's stronger. It's just not a good matchup for Storley here. 3 rounds of grueling wrestling where they're going to try to take each other down. They're going to clinch a lot. Storley does tend to slow down a bit. I do notice it more than Umalatov. I see Umalatov being able to win a unanimous decision here by implementing his wrestling. Third fight of our main event, featherweight bout. We have a returning Jesus Pinedo versus Adam Borics. A stand-up fighter's delight right here, because both of them like to stand and bang. Contrasting styles of strikers as well, as Jesus Pinedo reminds me more of a Brandon Moreno, and Borics, like I mentioned earlier about the Canadian, is more of a calculated, methodical striker who looks for his openings. And even though he pushes forward, he's more of a counter striker. He likes to get your timing down. He needs to be comfortable in order to start swinging. Something about Jesus Pinedo is he's also coming off a long layoff, about 1.5 years as well. But in this last fight against Braga, who has been battle tested and proven that he's tough, man, he's still in the game as of the last tournament or 2 of the PFL. Pinedo was able to stop him. He's just so much fun to watch because this guy throws 3, 4, 5 punch combinations, and if you get too close, he'll clinch you up and throws a high knee. He loves to mix it up, and it's just a beautiful work of art to watch. Borics, on the other hand, like I mentioned, likes to pace himself a little more. He uses his 1-2 a little better before he starts releasing his combos. And the last fight against Barzola, man, he looked good. But there's one thing. He seemed to have gassed out, and he definitely got out-wrestled easily. An example of the striking that I was mentioning earlier, Barzola numerous times just threw a barrage of punches, tried pushing the pace on Borics, and Borics kind of stepped back, and although he engaged in a slugfest, he seemed like the cleaner striker, and he actually caught Barzola and dropped him. Some might even say, dude, the ref could have stepped in right there and then as he went for the kill, and a couple punches in, they could have stopped the fight and no one would have complained. Even though eventually Borics won a unanimous decision, unfortunately for him, after that he started getting out wrestled. He did gas out, and actually on that 3rd round, man, Barzola was putting the pace on him, and it seemed like he just couldn't keep up. Not being able to keep up is definitely something that you don't want going into a fight with Pinedo. That's Pinedo's strengths. The more the fight goes, the stronger this guy gets. If anything, at the least, the guy keeps the same pace, and you're gonna feel his combinations. This guy just keeps coming forward and forward and forward. This is gonna be a fun fight, that 1st round for sure. And as it inches to the 2nd and 3rd round, I see Pinedo keeping up the pace while Borics is gonna fade away. I have Pinedo winning a unanimous decision. 4th fight, and our main event of the evening, welterweight bout between Jason Jackson and Andrey Koreshkov. I really don't know how to feel about Jason Jackson. I feel he's one of those hybrid fighters that, thanks to his athleticism and his height, his size for the welterweight division, is what has carried him into the position he's in today. But I see him, and I don't see a fighter that's good anywhere. He's just, I mean, look at his 1-2s, incredibly sloppy, somehow telegraphed, and he always throws himself off balance. He has no feet underneath him. In his last fight against Magomedov, the guy couldn't do anything for the first 3 rounds. And then something ironic happened. Come the 4th and 5th round, he started wrestling, and he was actually out wrestling the Dagestani. Although he wasn't able to amount much offense, he was able to keep control and did pretty decent. A couple times when Magomedov even reversed or whatnot, Jackson's hits were on point. Very sturdy, very quick to scramble and get back into position. This is going to be key here because Andrey Koreshkov has been known to be dominated with wrestling. Koreshkov is one of those fighters that I love to watch. His striking is amazing. It's fast, it's explosive, it's clean, it's sharp. You'll see spinning back kicks, you'll see elbows. I mean, you name it. The guy is a fun fighter to watch. His last fight against Yamauchi, I mean, he was able to display it all. Decent wrestling defense as Yamauchi eventually started getting him to the ground, but I never once sensed that Koreshkov was in trouble. And keep in mind, Yamauchi, who has a lot of fucking submissions under his... And keep in mind, his power is a little underrated. At one point, he even threw a kick that Yamauchi caught. And he just threw a straight cross. Not even a cross, a jab. And it dropped Yamauchi. Very similar to Armin Sarukian in the UFC versus Beneil Dariush. So the story of the fight is as follows. I see Jason Jackson pushing the pace. He's going to make Koreshkov backpedal. That way he's not comfortable enough to strike. He's going to shoot for a double or a single, or he's simply going to throw his sloppy 1-2, get him to react backwards, holding up against the cage, and working from there. He will secure takedowns, and he's going to win via unanimous decision here.